If you enjoy the subject matter of these podcasts, then you would definitely enjoy any of the 3 Patreon discussion groups that are available. You can read about these groups by going to theinfinitesparkofbeing.com and clicking the Patreon/donate button. This is a community of everyday people who are interested in living with a deeper understanding of spiritual practice and how it can be applied in a practical sense to our everyday lives. Join us. Welcome to the Infinite Spark of Being podcast. My name is Keith Welsh, and in this episode, we are going to put a ribbon on Karma Yoga. This is going to be the piece of this that is the hardest to understand, the component to this that hurts the most, and the piece of it that is the most how do you say it? Upsetting for our culture, especially our culture today. I've noticed that at 48, a switch has flipped. I am now a back in my day fella. Anyway, so there is a verse in the Gita where Krishna tells Arjuna, you have a right to the work, but you don't have a right to the reward. This is to say, you have a right to your opinion, but you don't have a right to my opinion. Meaning that you have the right to change your opinion. You do not have the right to change my opinion. You have the right to your experience, but you do not have the right to my experience, right? You have the right to whatever game you want to play, but you don't have the right to force me to play your game. That sounds very empowering for some of you. Let me say it this way. Because like Chogyam said, enlightenment is the ego's largest disappointment. The biggest disappointment of the ego is to wake up. And you wake up to this fact. It's this idea that everyone needs their experience validated by everybody else. You don't have a right to that. You just don't. Because for me to validate your experience, what if my experience of reality is different from yours? You want me to validate it? I can't. I don't have your experience. And your experience isn't objectively real. It is a subjective experience that you're having. I'm also having a subjective experience. The beauty of the spiritual path is that we learn to transform our reality being the subjective experience. No 2 minds are alike. They might be similar, but they're not alike. You have a right to work, but you don't have a right to the reward. You have the right to self-improvement. You have the right to spiritual practice, but you do not have a right to the reward that you think you're supposed to get. And the big thing I run into with people all the time, and if you're listening to this and you think I'm talking to you, I am, but I'm also talking to everybody else before you that had the same problem. Those of you that we work one-on-one together. You have the right to better yourself, to change your experience of reality. That does not mean we are all going to treat you better. It just doesn't. It doesn't mean that we are all suddenly going to go, oh my God, Kathy's doing yoga. Let's all be nice to her. Oh my God, Bill has gotten sober and changed his way of thinking and changed his way of operating in the world. We should all treat him better. No, because I might still be a fucking asshole. And if I'm still an asshole and you're not, I'm sorry, but I'm still an asshole. I have the right to self-improvement, but I don't have the right to make you treat me better. I don't have the, I can expect it, but good luck with that. Just because I've changed my life and I've become a better person for me, it really means that I'm doing it so that I can have a better experience of life. But now I've tangled you up in that. I've now expected you to treat me better. Well, I don't have a right to that. And it's very difficult for this butthurt bunch of fucking spineless citizens that we're dealing with. You don't have a right to that. It's kind of a fucking suck it up situation. And this is why these texts are so difficult for our people to understand now. Like, I have the right to meditate 12 hours a fucking day if I want. That doesn't mean that I don't have to pay taxes. It goes, and some of you are already there. You're already going where it's difficult to go. But look, you have the right to refer to yourself and to identify as anything you want. And me personally, I will join you in that, whatever, right? But other people might not, and you don't have the right to change their opinion. You just don't. Nobody does. They are having an experience. You are having an experience. Since when do we get to infiltrate each other's experience? Now, when we look at this from the path of selfless service, we look at the great Ram Dass quote, the best thing I can do for you is to work on myself. The best thing you can do for me is to work on yourself and become a better person. That's all we can do for each other. We can engage in one another's thought exercises and try to see the world through each other's eyes. But that doesn't mean that we're going to have the same experience. Now here's the thing. This is the fucking thing. This is not about working in soup kitchens and giving away all of your possessions. What this is about, can you simply better yourself selflessly? Can you do the right thing selflessly? Can you better yourself without being a selfish shit that now demands the world to treat you better? This is a new way of looking at this for some of you. Can you better yourself selflessly? Or are you bettering yourself in a selfish way that demands that everyone now treats you better, which means that they all have to change their experience of you? Because the reality is now that you're this woke, perfect being of light, and you're now fully living in the present moment, you now expect everyone else to do this too. That's not the case. To the unawakened, the uninitiated, whatever we're going to call them, they live in the past with a projection of the future based on past experience. That's not your problem. That's their problem. Your problem is, can you live as this fully awakened spiritual being that is obviously just head and shoulders above everybody else? Can you just live in the present moment without needing to drag everybody in there with you? This is a new way to look at this. You have a right to the work, but you don't have a right to the reward. You have a right to the work of spiritual practice, you have a right to the work of self-improvement and everything that entails, but you do not have the right to that reward. No one can get, because it's like you're expecting the outside to reward your inner work. The reward is inwardly as well. It is not going to be an outward reward. Stop. We're not going to treat you better because now you've done 8 trips of ayahuasca and you've been to 4 yoga retreats and now you think that you're God and we're all supposed to treat you accordingly. That's not going to happen. Believe me. I mean, I'm out here recording these podcasts for you guys, for the good of you. And I'm spending all this one-on-one time with you because I'm an amazing, wonderful person. I'm writing these books to try to wake you up, and that's my lot in life, and it's a cross that I must bear, that I have to be this beacon of spirituality. Now, why the fuck aren't you guys treating me better? This sounds crazy, right? Why doesn't the cashier at Target know how fucking special I am? My God. Doesn't the guy at Home Depot know how wonderful I am and how important I am? Doesn't the guy that slowed down in his truck to tell me to get out of the road on a run, get out of the road, you fucking F word? Like, doesn't he know how wonderful I am? Doesn't he know that I am out here bettering my physical body, and I meditate and I journal and I eat carrots and I do all these things? Don't you all know how fucking wonderful I am? God damn it. Doesn't the IRS know that I am out here doing the Lord's work for you people? See how fucking stupid this sounds? It sounds annoying, is what it sounds like. Well, thanks to Krishna, we now know that we have a right to do all those things, but we don't have a right to the reward. And that's very difficult for some of you to understand. And if it is, again, like Chogyam said, this isn't your, go do something else. Go fucking, I don't know. Join the Peace Corps and see if those village, dig a well and then have everybody have a ceremony for you, and then you get to get a pat on the back because you dug the well for these ignorant pygmies that don't have water.
If you believe that you would benefit from working with me one-on-one on grief and loss, anxiety, ruminating thinking, then shoot me an email or direct message. Or if you're interested in learning about meditation and how it can transform your reality and in turn change your life, then again, please reach out through email or direct message. Thank you.
You can do that. Do that then. Help little old ladies across the street and expect a tip. I don't know. What I have found is that the work is the reward. That the spiritual path is the reward. That there is no ending. That the path is it. That you just do, and that's, that you just, the reward is that the mind is easier. The mind is more open, and the mind is, you've trained it to hold space for itself, for your frantic nervous system, your anxiety and your depression and your suicidal ideation. You've learned to hold space for that as the watcher. And now you get to hold space for every crazy fuck at Thanksgiving dinner. Congratulations. That's it. You get to listen to your Aunt Janet talk about the rapture. There's a Thanksgiving dinner once where my aunt, very fundamentalist, she's dead now, and I'm sure she is finally in her 2,000-year-old mansion with Jesus Christ, and I'm sure that her dutiful outward religious practice has not landed her in a fiery lake of fire. I'm sure she's a disembodied consciousness right now, hearing this and laughing and hopefully getting the joke. But she was a wholehearted believer in the rapture. One day at Thanksgiving, I'm sitting with her and her grandson, my cousin Anthony, who was at that point out of the closet. And I was working in gay bars at the time, and so I would see him a lot. It was fun. But, one day she started talking about the rapture and the second coming, and I looked and I said, Anthony was on my right, Janet was on my left, and I go, how do you know it hasn't already happened? And she goes, well, it's not because, I said, well, we're, and I pointed at Anthony, I was like, we're still here. So, because what Janet never knew is that I knew what an absolute fucking terrorist of a human being she'd been in her earlier years. So, I don't know why I just told that story, but it was funny. Anthony and I just kind of chuckled, like, we're still here. How do you know that, all your shit didn't catch up with you and the rapture already happened, and here we are. We're stuck here fucking, I don't know. So this whole idea is tricky, right? Those of you that I've done one-on-one sessions with, I wasn't just making fun of you. It's something that we all go through, where it's like, I've done all this work, why aren't you treating me better? I'm so wonderful, like, why aren't you being nicer to me? It's like, because this person fucking sucks, and can you live and improve without attachment to the outcome? You do what you do because that's what you do, and I do what I do because that's what I do, right? That's the whole thing, that's karma yoga. You do it, and what you find out is that the more open and the more space that you hold for yourself, the more space you're able to hold for others, and in that you actually create space that allows you to respond more skillfully, more compassionately in the world, which really does change your experience of reality. That your reality does change. But it's not going to change because you did what you did. It's not, and I mean that, and it's not a reward. It's not a tit for tat thing. Your experience changes because through this opening, your mind has changed. And as your mind changes, your experience changes, because as Lama Losan told me, we only experience our mind. So we have to work with the mind. The mind is the whole spiritual work. That's it. I hope I didn't frustrate many of you too much, but that's Chogyam's thing. It's like, this is the disappointment of the ego. So he goes, wait a minute, you mean I'm not gonna fucking, everyone's not gonna be super cool to me because I'm so wonderful? I think it's a Roshi Joan Halifax, Zen Roshi. I don't know if it's her story. I might be conflating things, but there was a woman who was a Buddhist who noticed that when she went home as a Buddhist in all of her garb with her beads and all, everyone was kind of shitty. But when she went home as the Buddha, meaning she just acted in a proper way without attachment to everyone else's stuff, that it was much more pleasant. I think that story is in After the Ecstasy, the Laundry, and a lot of those stories that Jack Kornfield shares, and that I think I've figured out which spiritual teachers, because he tries to keep it anonymous. So I think I've figured out who's who. I think that's Joan Halifax. I don't know. Can you act without reward? Sometimes I get caught in those things too, It's like, don't you understand what I'm doing for you? It's foolish, man, but it's part of the deal. It's also, we've got these bodies and these minds and this brain gateway and all this stuff going on, and so yeah, we get a little egoic. It's part of it. Take it easy on yourself. Do what you do. Can you better yourself without attachment to your improvement? Can you do what you do and give enough space and take it easy on you enough to allow you to grow at your own pace, and not at the pace of the ego, but at the pace of the soul? That the soul is waking up in its own time. It's all waking up in its own time, and a lot of you get down this spiritual road and you start to improve your life, and it feels wonderful, and you just want everyone else to have this awesome experience that you're having, but they don't seem to want to. They want to suffer, and that's fine. So can you wake yourself up without attachment to everyone else's process? This might not be their round. There's no clock, there's no time. Relax. It's not the federal case you think it is. It's okay. A lot of it is like, man, we need everybody to wake up. No, we don't. But people are dying. Yeah, people are, but souls aren't. This is all unfolding very lawfully. Whatever it is, I know there's a lot going on in the world, but to be fair, there's always been a lot going on. You know, some of us who are a little more privy to it before there was social media, we were aware of what was going on in these other places. You know, and there was an age, a time in my life where I tried to tell everybody, and was very attached to you all waking up, but all I had was books and ideas. And, you know, now I guess I'm just at this point where it's like, yeah, it's always been this way. You know, actually, there's a great podcast I listen to called Mysterious Universe. And they recently interviewed one of their people that writes articles for them, because they got a website. And it's a very good podcast. There's a bunch of cool stuff. They actually have a YouTube show now, which is great. They're very funny people. They're Australians, and they get into wild things, spiritual stuff, paranormal, and then, you know, they're believers just like everybody, but they also have like a fun twist to it where they kind of, you know, poke holes and poke jokes at their own stuff, but it's fun. But there's a guy, Biddu, what's his name? He writes for them. It's an interview they do with him, but he wrote a book about yugas and the Kali Yuga and all this, and he thinks that he's pretty much got the equation down pat as far as like when the Kali Yuga would have started, when it's supposed to end. But that's worth listening to. You know, but this is the age, man. This is the Kali Yuga. You know, this is, I know Paramahansa Yogananda believed it was over, and I don't know, but I mean, you could also look at it as like, it's the nature of the human being to lie and to be a bit deceitful and all that. It's the nature of the human experience to do that, you know. And all those things are done out of fear and you know, this fear of lack and fear of death and all this stuff. So there's a certain amount of it that's like, it's just part and parcel of it, man. You know, the idea is that you are working with your own mind. You know, you're not necessarily going to purify all of your thoughts. You're not going to necessarily purify all of your actions. The best we can really do is become keenly aware of our own stuff so that we can see it as it unfolds. And as we see it as it unfolds, we can give ourselves a little bit of grace and space. And in that, we start to act a little different. The second we let go of the reward of being a better person, I promise you, in my experience, when you let go of the reward, like Krishna is asking us to, things get better. But as long as there's expectation for everyone to behave themselves in the way that you find it beneficial, right? Your attachment to the model of behavior for all these people is really what's tormenting you. You know, you have a right to self-improvement, but you don't have the right to everyone patting you on the back for it. You have a right to identify as a better person, a whatever, whether it's a gender thing, whatever it is, your identification, like, you're welcome to identify as a saint. It doesn't mean I'm going to treat you like one. Because remember, I'm having my experience, and you have the right to your experience, but you don't have the right to infiltrate my own mind and change my experience. Even on like a spiritual level, that's my work. My work is that I'm supposed to struggle with this thing. You have to allow me to struggle with it. Right? That's it. That's all of it. You have a right to self-improvement. Can you improve yourself? Wake yourself up? Can you do it? Can you do the spiritual work selflessly? Or are you going to do it in a selfish way where you demand everyone treat you better and everyone changes the way they act because you're so wonderful now? That's essentially it. So that's it. That's all. Give one more episode before we start July. But yeah. I love you guys. And I love you. I love you. I love you. Bye.
If you enjoy this content and you would like to support the creation of more of this content, go to the website theinfinitesparkofbeing.com and explore the many ways to do that. Also, click the About button, read a little bit about me, and see what I have to offer you. And don't forget to check out the Patreon tiers. If you'd like to join a spiritual community of everyday people with not so everyday interests, go ahead and check out the Patreon/donate button